with it being such a week that we're having, I think this is going to be an awesome conversation.
I think
All right,
so.
all right, all right. Welcome, everybody. I know you're not used to seeing me on a live show, but just seeing my little avatar in there. But we have such a special show today, and I did not want the day to go by. I did not want the opportunity to go by without making sure that this went forward, because you know what, this show is a while in the making, and I feel just so pleased and honored to be able to bring these individuals on to share
You've gone silent.
I find it really awesome that even through the years, I can still go back and take some of your great relationship advice, Patty. You know, that's
Oh,
one
thank
thing
you.
that has been so just I think so incredibly important or significant, that the relationship advice that you gave, that you provided, wasn't just about romantic relationships. It's relationships with people. It's
Oh, yes.
relationships with children. And I would say that even beyond the relationship that I had with my ex husband, it has provided me an opportunity to become a better mother to my children. When we talked about the ways that we express our love, right?
That's
When we talk
wonderful.
about the way, yeah. And so I think this is going to be an incredible conversation tonight. We have a few glowers and lighters in the room. Hello, salute to you also, Sir Senior. Hello, Koja Malik. Hello, welcome, welcome. We have a great, I think, a great leader on this topic in regards to conversation. I want I wanted to give everyone a little bit of background with me and how long we've known each other. So you all know, like I always say, I don't offer you something that I wouldn't take, right? So even when I'm talking about fitness tips, when I'm talking about financial tips, when I'm talking about, ways to engage, ways to build business, being politically involved, I don't offer you things that I have not or am not interested in or have not been doing. So um, I want to be just very transparent. I first met this incredible woman when my ex-husband and I were struggling to make a marriage work in the beginning stages of being parents. We had two very young babies, and we were kind of having a hard time with figuring out what that looked like in regards to you know two single married people for more than a decade. Now we were parents of young babies, and we were still relatively young. And so it was my ex husband who actually found out about Patty. And we had previously had a counselor when we lived in a previous city, but we hadn't had someone uh, was uh, who was working with us together. And I think that was what made the difference to me. And even though my ex husband and I ended up being divorced, I believe about 3 years later after meeting Patty, I think absolutely, not even think, I know absolutely the work that we did with Patty, it created an appreciation for who we were as people and friends, as opposed to just saying that this is what we were, friends as people and as parents, and not just saying that this is what we were as
I can't hear you any longer.
just wanted us to definitely speak about relationship issues. And there seems to be a real crucial, uh, I think, communication breakdown in regards to our communities and thinking that we're the only ones that have these problems when it comes to keeping marriages together. And I can definitely tell you that obviously Patty is not African American.
Oh, you could
Um,
tell.
I can tell Patty, but
I'm as wasp as they come.
but I can definitely tell you that that's something that I've always valued about your input, that you've always let us know that these issues were not issues that only African American people face. When it came to infidelity, when it came to finances being an issue, when it came to families being an issue and keeping relationships together. Um, so, without any further ado, I'm going to let the guest of the hour take her rightful place as with the spotlight. And I'm going to join everyone else in the chat and just thank you again for engaging with us today. And thank you all for who are here. I think this is going to be an awesome hour of power that we're going to have here. I think we're going to learn a lot. I'm excited about the conversation, the conversations and the dialogue, because if not for anything else, Patty has always been incredible with giving actual activities, with giving actual exercises that can be used in your everyday life. So, without any further ado, Miss Patty Newbold.
Oh,
Yay!
thank you. And I apologize for having no video. You'll just have to look at me enjoying the beach when it was sunnier out. I started my Assume Love blog back in February of 2006. And soon after that, I started doing these workshops for free, just because this is not my job. I'm a management consultant by day, and now I have retired into working with Barbara Scher's work. But I just really wanted to share with people because I went through 11 years of a really perfect marriage to someone who was so much like me. And then in years 12 and 13, everything blew up. And I had no idea why. I went to a therapist to ask why, and she was no help at all either. And so finally, one night, I gave my husband this long list of my unmet needs. We have needs. All of us do. We all have a list. And mine was getting longer and longer and longer, that I just felt overburdened. I felt like I couldn't tolerate this life any longer. It wasn't that I'd stopped loving him. And I think that's true for an awful lot of married people. They don't stop loving the person they're with. They stop loving the life they're sharing. And we had a child, and, our child had issues. So he was front and center at that time. And so while our child was off on vacation with friends, I went to my husband and I said, I can't take this life of ours anymore. I think we should move apart. And we can co-parent, of course. We can be friends. I still care about you, but I just can't take this life anymore. I don't know what I imagined would happen. That magical thinking that if I move out, it won't cost twice as much to have two homes. I don't know. Or that there'd be any more time in the day if I had to do everything in that home instead of, too much in this home. But that was my idea. I was at my wit's ends, and I said to him, I've got to get out. I have these needs. You're never going to meet them. I just need to live my life. And the next day I came home from work and I found him dead, lying in our bathtub. And it just overwhelmed me. But the next morning I woke up and I went down the list that I'd read to him the day before. And I still had all the same needs. He wasn't the cause of anything that was going wrong in my life. And that just really opened my eyes. And ever since then, when I get a chance to talk to people about marriage, I love to do it. Ask me any question. I love to help people see it more clearly, because I now see it so clearly that I know where I screwed up. I know what I made a mess of. I know how much love I missed out on. And I dated for 11 years after that. Well, not all of the 11, because I was a, grieving widow and a mom and all that. But I did start dating, and it was 11 years after my husband died that I met my second husband. And he's utterly different from me. If we had met when we were young, I would have killed him. I could not have stood dealing with how many things he thought of differently from me, how many activities he liked that I didn't like, how many activities I liked that he didn't want to be part of. We could disagree on virtually everything until we started keeping a notebook and we wrote down things like we both like broccoli. We were at that level. We went out shopping for furniture, couldn't find any we liked, but we both liked Scandinavian. So we put these in the book. Yeah, we're going to be okay. We've been together now for 23 years, I think it is. So I know this works. And I started sharing it in 2006, first in the blog and then in the classes. And I don't think it matters what race you are, what community you live in, what culture you grew up in. My daughter-in-law grew up in as a member of a minority in India. And I have 3 wonderful grandchildren, and their parents are happily married. So I know that this works for everyone. And it's great when you ask me questions, and so I'll just answer the first one that Courtney threw at me the other day, and that's about something called swirling, which I had not heard that term, but marrying or having a relationship with someone of a different race. And I understand there's a whole lot of political reasons why folks would say that's a good idea or a bad idea. But I don't deal in politics. I deal in how are you two going to stand living with each other? And so to me, when you marry outside your race, as my son did, when you do that, you're creating more opportunity for mismatched expectations. And that was what killed my marriage. My marriage, I had so many expectations of what a husband would do. And, they don't always do what you expect. In fact, they almost never do what you expect. And the same for wives. And when you marry someone who grew up in a different environment, with different rules, with different role models, with different TV shows and movies they were watching, with different hobbies, etc., you create more and more opportunities for coming into the marriage with an expectation that's not going to be met. And I don't know if you've heard this, but I think this is the world's greatest saying, that every expectation is a premeditated resentment. And everybody comes into a marriage with them. The more you have, the more resentful you're going to feel in any relationship. And like Courtney said, it's also true with your children and your parents and everybody else you have to deal with in your life. Every expectation that's not based on a promise you were given, every expectation is a premeditated resentment of another person that's going to make you miserable. And you get to choose how happy you are in your marriage based on whether or not you can accept that there are very few expectations that you can count on in a marriage. So I would say you should expect love. You absolutely should expect to be loved and respected. But you shouldn't be talking about how those will show up. So if you ever find yourself thinking, if you loved me, You would be helping me with this because you invited your family over and now I'm cooking the meal and all I want you to do is set up the damn table and why can't you do that? That's an expectation. And that is not an expectation of love. That's you making up what love ought to look like. And in the moment, I found in that first marriage that I made up a lot of things that love ought to look like. So since then, I've done a lot of studying of love. And guess what? People show love in very different ways. There are people who will encourage you and give you inspiring speeches and cheer you on when you're trying to do something new. And there are other people who think words are a dime a dozen and they would feel like they were dishonoring you if they tried to do that. And they won't do it unless you force them to do it, and they won't feel loving while they're doing it, which means they are probably going to feel some resentment at their expectation being dashed. And you're probably going to see less of the spontaneous loving. So the great thing for me in the second marriage is finding out how many different ways I can be loved, how many different things this person can do for me if I just take care of the things that I was expecting. So I started the moment I was widowed. It was like, okay, I still need all these things. I still need, my husband had been ill, so our sex life was terrible. And I still really wanted to be held. But I didn't want to have sex with strangers just to get held. So I actually took up dancing. I went out and tried several different types until I found a type, listening to a type of music, country, Western music, which I had always abhorred. But people in country Western bars change partners constantly, and they have a lot of choreographed couples dances. And this was perfect for me. I could go out and spend the evening in the arms of 8 or 9 different men and then come home at night and feel a lot better. I had expected, my husband to do the cooking because I'm a horrible, horrible cook and I don't want to eat my cooking. And so I'd expected him to take care of that. But when he was dead, I found that we could live off of Healthy Choice TV dinners for that first year until I got my act together because the time I spent with my son was more important. I thought my husband should do a whole lot of things for me because of the fact that I had a long commute, and I had the long commute because we had intentionally moved close to his job because we knew he had a chronic illness and there would be times when the drive would be long for him, and this way he could still get to work. So I had this really long drive, and then I'd rush home to take care of the local chores, and I just kept saying, you have to take care of them. You have to take care of them. If you loved me, you'd take care of them. And he would constantly say, when I get off work, I have to come home and just rest. I can't do them. And it never occurred to me to go fix the problem of doing the chores or fix the problem of driving so far. But within a few weeks after he died, I went to my boss and I said, I was a branch manager, so it helped. And my boss was off in headquarters. And I said, I either have to move the office or change jobs. Which do you prefer? So he said, move the office. And I found myself right next door, within walking distance of where my husband would walk to lunch from where he had worked. And, it just was amazing to me when I started fixing what I needed because I had to, that it was doable. And now I just do it in my second marriage. So I see some people have asked, what does love look like? So there's a guy named Gary Chapman who says that there are 5 love languages. And one of them is words of affirmation, which is all the nice cheerleading and praise. Another one is physical touch. That includes both sex and being held and having your hair stroked and holding hands when you're out together. There's another one. That is quality time together. That's like having someone's full attention, either to talk or to do something together or to spend your weekends, out hiking or at the beach. There's another one, which is acts of service. And that's the doing helpful things for each other. And I'm one of those people, actually, I just get annoyed by anyone who tries to love me that way. Just let me be. You want me to be grateful for you doing the chore, but you don't do it the way I want it done. But my love language is gifts. And there's, about a fifth of us, that's the love language. Now, all of us kind of like having these different love languages, but there's one or two that we need to have to feel loved. But I found once I understood that, I also could understand that my husband doesn't feel loving when he does things for me that I want done. And I like when he's loving me. So I pay attention to when he does the things that feel like loving to him. And I ask specifically for other things that I want. And I understand, my previous marriage, we had both been gift lovers and we would give each other gifts all the time. And I know I'm not going to get that in my second marriage. So I make sure to cultivate friends with whom I exchange gifts all the time. So does that have anything to do? Those are love languages. Then there's also, if you look at character strengths, every one of us brings different strengths to a marriage, and it's loving to use your strengths to the benefit of your partner. So if you're really creative and you do something really creative for your partner, that's fantastic. But if you're great at social intelligence, and you help your partner navigate some important networking event or party or social scene, that's loving. If you're very spiritual and you can help your spouse or your lover to experience that uplifting of being spiritual, that is a way of showing love. But you have to recognize that the person who loves you is going to love you with their strengths, not your strengths. And if you're lucky, you might have a couple of strengths in common. And, most of us are like 5 top strengths out of this list of 24 that the researchers studied. And if you have 2 together and 3 that are different, then you've got 8 strengths that your marriage can rely on. And I just find that fantastic. Now, does it matter whether your spouse is the same race or a different race when doing those things? No, all of these things are true of all of us humans. But what you bring into the marriage, what your love languages are, depend on who you grew up with. They depend on the experiences you had in previous relationships. And so when someone is different from you, you have to be more tolerant. You have to, and it's not just be tolerant. I'm not talking about like be a doormat. I'm talking about look at this person and understand. So I finally understood my husband grew up in a very dysfunctional family, and gifts always came with strings attached and never were selected to make the recipient feel happy. And so I get that he has no clue how to choose gifts for me because he didn't get any, and he's doing better over time. But this is not his way of loving because it's so laden with problems from his own early years for him that to try to pick a good gift when you've never received them, or when all the gifts you've received have come with some negative aspect to them, means that it's a trying experience. The only thing he can do is fail. He doesn't know how to succeed at giving me, at making me happy with gifts. So I have to tell him things like, if you just go, I made this for you when you cook something, that will count. Or one time, one of his great gifts is a sense of humor. And he came home on my birthday from a stop at the supermarket, and he brought me a 6-pack of toilet paper with a bow on top. And he handed it to me and said, "Happy birthday. I finally found something I know you needed." And I just burst out laughing. I mean, for a moment, I was going to cry because nobody's ever given me toilet paper as a birthday gift. But I burst out laughing because that is what he brings to my life. He has a sense of humor that is amazing, and he can make me laugh when, I'm down in the dumps. And here's one. My husband doesn't seem to grasp the understanding of what I desire in the bedroom and in our marriage. He just does what he wants, regardless of what I've mentioned in over 21 years. Well, I think then you can pretty much conclude that he's not capable of following your instructions. And there's 2 reasons why he might not be capable of following your instructions. One is that he's out of the mood when given instructions. That this just kills the libido. And the other one is that he's afraid of failing at what you're asking for, which again is going to kill the libido. So maybe you start to ask for smaller things, ask for them at a different time. Don't ask them for them at the time that the emotional impact on him is going to affect what's going on in the bedroom. And just ask for what you want, and you have to take away there's something wrong with you because you're not giving me this thing I want. Okay? It has to be, there's something about me that makes me want something, and I really would like your help in getting it. And because it's sex, I don't want to go outside our marriage to get it. But again, you could go out dancing to, just come home in a different frame of mind than you are at the end of washing dishes, for example. So there are options there. So are there any other questions out there that I might tackle? Courtney, what was that other new term you introduced me to for marrying up? She may be muted. Oh, I think it was some sort of igamy, right? That referred to marrying someone to rise in status or income. And that of course has been going on forever. But it makes it really hard to come into your, there you are. Hi.
I actually have a couple. Oh,
Please.
hypergamy.
Hypergamy, that was it.
Yeah, hypergamy.
That's a great one. So hypergamy is really, it's going to make your marriage harder. And it makes your marriage harder because you two need to be equal in the marriage. You can't give love to and receive love from someone who isn't your equal. Doesn't mean you have to be identical. It doesn't mean you have to do the same things or play the same roles in your marriage. But you have to be equals, and you have to be able to speak to each other as equals. And so you can be married to someone who has more education than you, or has more money than you, or has a job you really admire, if you feel like you're their equal. And if they feel like you're their equal. But if you have married specifically for that purpose and you have chosen a person, not your equal, not your partner in life. But yeah.
That's what, because uh, Patty, that's one thing that I struggle with, uh, because I was married. My ex husband is a lawyer,
Yeah.
and um, so when I saw these terms being thrown around now, I was like, well, shoot, I was doing that 20 years ago.
But you
I missed
two
the memo.
were pretty obviously equals in your marriage. And I
You
should say,
know
I
what,
don't
Patty?
do any marriage counseling. These two just both showed up at my workshops.
Oh my gosh. You know what I love? And I always love that about you, Patty. I remember just so many times where, you know, we just would get off we would be arguing on the way home. And we would go into your workshops and we would it was like it would totally recreate our whole night. We'd be arguing on the way home. He would have just picked me up from work, and the kids were in the back, and I'm like, well, why didn't you feed them before you came? Now they're really cranky. And then we would end up the night, and he would be like, you know what Patty says? And I'd be like, yes, okay, I get it, and we would be able to do that. And I really love that what you always provided were very simple. It was very simple. But because we were both very, very I think overthinking things,
Yep.
we really
That was
would
me in
kind of
marriage number
overshoot.
one.
Yeah, we were
Overthinking.
overshoot. And that's one thing I love that you kept kind of reminding us of that what we were friends before anything. We were friends before anything. So it was important to remember that before we became parents, before we were even married, we were friends. We were friends. And it was important to remember that. Another thing that I remember that was so important was that, because I was very much the health nut, and you reminded me that no matter how many ways I did it, he was an ice cream lover. He was not gonna see kale as a perfect.
Yes.
I was just like, but hey, the nutrients here, it just makes more sense for us to just invest more here, and it
It's
was
so
great.
hard for wives to let husbands choose their own diet.
It was because he could literally, have the lightest of meals as long as he could get two bowls of ice cream. And for me, that was like, I was like, so you think that my job is a joke? Here I am, a nutritionist and a physical consultant, and I'm coming home and my husband is feeding the children, two big bowls of ice cream. I would be livid. Um, and you would be, my daughter is here. She says, yep, that was the best days of my life. But that was great to just have an outside perspective of this. Now I do see someone's commented here. Sir Senior says, is it important to do your best even when you feel they are doing their best? Oh, we struggle with that in our marriage. You can speak on that, Patty. I'm going to mute myself because remember, I used to
Okay.
be that I used to always feel like I was kind of trying more because I was more involved with the kids. And yeah, so I'm going to let you
Yeah.
speak on it.
I'm going to answer that one, and then I'm going back to the butt squeezing. Okay. So, is it important to do your best even when you feel your spouse isn't doing their best? Here's the thing I know about marriage now. How well your marriage goes has very little to do with your spouse. It has to do with what's going on in your head. And if you tell yourself, I'm doing a lot and therefore I deserve better, I would say you're right if what you're getting in return is, violence or theft or any of the things that, would be illegal for a stranger to do to you. But if you're just not getting whatever sort of love you're looking for, then you need to let go of those expectations because you are creating resentment. And the resentment will wear down a relationship so fast. So there are a lot of things you can do. There are things, for example, one of them is to ask your spouse in a non-confrontational manner what they're doing for your marriage. Because again, we speak different love languages, and you could be there, running rings around the house doing favors for your spouse. You could be, you know, she mentioned she'd like some curtains, so I went out and bought some and I hung them. And then I thought we needed a barbecue out back, so I built one. And then I went out and got us a better car so she'd feel safer when she drove. And then I did this and I did that. And none of them looked like love to her. They looked like control. And that happens in so many marriages. So you are free at any time to do less. And I would say if you are finding yourself resenting the situation you're in, the first step ought to be to do less. But don't do less to punish your spouse. Do less to recover your enjoyment of the relationship. Just do less for a while. If you don't want to cook, order every meal out. If you don't, I remember, and I hope I'm not revealing too many secrets, but Courtney, with you and your husband, that one of you was very conservative about money, and the other one was very hopeful about money. And I think I ended up suggesting that the hopeful one set aside a bank account for the conservative one, because the hopeful one knew more money would come in. And this would just allow the one who was more conservative to have the confidence that the money would be there when it was needed.
Guilty. But I think, you know what, Patty, I think what happened, because I did set aside that second account, and because he never really tapped into it, I started just using that for my Victoria's Secret stuff.
Oh!
And I would convince myself that, well, it's going to benefit him too. But Patty, I've got a very better grasp on this nowadays. I don't even have a Victoria's Secret account anymore. So I'm going to be well prepared for the next husband. That's for sure.
I have had a lot of people who went ahead and divorced the spouses they're with. They're subscribing to my blog, or they're in contact with me by email, or
and I did, yeah, I did.
A lot of people do that.
Other relationships.
At first I was going, I must have failed because these people ended up divorced. But they come and they tell me, I'm ready now to do it right. And I understand, because it's, backpedaling after you've gone in the wrong direction for a while is pretty hard. And starting over, starting fresh, it's not as rich a relationship as the one you had, but it's a lot easier to get traction and to start doing things the way you want to do it. So going back to the butt squeezing, I hope you guys are seeing this in the comments. It says, if I say, rubbing my back gets me in the mood romantically, he'll squeeze my butt instead, and he knows I hate it. Yeah. You may want to try putting some humor into the situation. Make it harder to squeeze your butt, or make it funny to squeeze your butt, so that he gets the message in a way that's not mean or commanding. It's like, I don't like you to do this, so now I'm wearing a whoopee pad in my pants, grab my back, my butt, you're going to get an awful noise. Or get yourself a really wonderful Victoria's Secret outfit, but add to it a bustle of feathers on the back, covering your butt. And just have some fun with it and try to take some of the stress out of, because you've had this back and forth forever. And so that either he's just not getting the message, which is possible, or he's trying to get your goat and get your attention and let you know he's in charge. And once someone wants to be in charge, this is someone who's your equal. So you got to think, why isn't he not feeling like he's in charge of his life? Is there something missing in our relationship that we could discuss, that we could find a resolution to, away from this problem? But if you're still bugging me, if you're still teasing me like a kid, or you're still doing something that you want to do just because it's what you want to do, see if you can get to what's leading to that. Why does he need your attention? Why does he need to be in charge in the bedroom, for example? And you may be able to figure it out. I found an awful lot of people, once they stop for a moment and do, the reason my blog is called Assume Love is because I tell everyone, just stop and assume love. For a moment, assume that this person who has just shocked you or annoyed the hell out of you actually loves you, and you know it for certain. They love you, they respect you, they still have a good character, as wonderful as the person that you fell in love with. And just, if you have to imagine you're watching a movie and you've seen all the scenes proving that this person really loves this other person and you're the other person. And then we see the scene where they do something really stupid or annoying. And you stop and you ask yourself, what if I assume for the moment, and I'm not saying pretend, I'm saying assume for the moment, that this isn't happening because I'm unloved or because he's turned into some wretched fellow. But there's something behind it, and he loves me. So I can give you an example of somebody who, after 20 some years of marriage, discovered that every time she went to visit her mother, her husband rented X-rated movies on their Comcast service. And so that her kids, her teenagers, saw these movies listed. And she lost it, and she thought it was the kids who were doing it. And then she found out, no, they were always with her when he did it. So she went to him and she said, were you the one who did this? And he said, yes, the doctor told me to. So she spent the next day asking her doctor's receptionist, the family doctor's receptionist, and everyone she could find on social media, do you know any doctors who prescribe porn movies? I thought that was probably not her best strategy. So I invited her privately to assume love and, calm herself down enough, because when we're upset, we get tunnel vision and we don't have access to a lot of information that's in our heads. And that is a proven psychological fact. So I asked her to, when did it start? And she told me the date of the first rental. And I said, did anything else happen in your lives around that time? And that's when she went, oh my God, yes, that's when he had the vasectomy. And I said, and when does he watch them? And she says, only on the day that I'm due to return from my mother's house. And I said, Do you see any other possibilities for explaining why he's doing it, or for his weird comment that his doctor prescribed it? And she got back to me 48 hours later and said, I am more in love than I have ever been with this man. I had no idea he was dealing with this problem. I had no idea how much this had been for him. And so I'm just thrilled when I hear those things. All right. We did the butt squeezing. We did the marrying up. Marry up for equal.
But you know what? Something about that with the hypergamy, this is what kind of gets me. It's younger women that are saying this, and they've never been married nor in a relationship with someone of equal value, let alone upper. And that's
Yes.
what kind of alarmed me, because I said, well, here I was. Let me tell you, it didn't get easier to figure out, even though, he's only a couple of years older than me. But yeah, I was married to a lawyer and a professor, but it wasn't like, oh, he's bringing home these racks of money and I'm, going and having these shopping sprees, because as you just, pointed out, he was very conservative with the money. And I was the one like, well, I don't understand why we can't just, go out to eat here, because we haven't gone out to eat, at this particular place in months. And
because you expected that if he had an income, you could spend it.
Exactly.
Right? Yes.
All the time.
I was also married to a professor of economics.
Even better,
Yeah.
right?
And
so how do you shake this, notion? Because like I said, these are young women, leading young women, and they're saying, oh, you need to, get these men of means. And I'm trying to tell them that these men of means aren't just, shuffling out their money.
ATMs.
No,
they're not ATMs, but also there is no guarantee. When I was at a retreat for writers, and we were all asked to put out a little sign-up sheet to do a discussion group with people, or a little mini workshop on whatever we like to write about. And so, of course, I put down marriage. And I invited people to write down, what questions do you want me to answer about marriage? Every single one of them, and these were all women attending a writer's workshop, said they wanted to know how to convince their husbands to go back to work, look for another job now that he'd been forced out of one, to ask for a raise, to, why won't my husband make more money? Now I'm making more than him. And I went, why was it fine?
Great conversation.
Why was it fine when he was making more than you, and now it's not fine? Would you have wanted to be told to go ask for a raise? Would you have wanted to be told that you need to make more money? Now, the moment my husband died, I went out and made more money. And it had never occurred to me to do that, because I already made more than him. Not by a lot, but I made a little more than him. And I'd always thought he had the option, as a professor, he could do extra consulting on the side. And never occurred to me that if I wanted more money, I could make more money.
Okay. So as you know, I've been single for 6 years, and I'm sorry, single for 5 years. I've been celibate for 6 years. We were the last gentleman I was with, we were supposed to be getting married, so we were celibate the last year of our relationship. And Patty, I want to be very honest, and I know I have disclosed to you privately, since this is. I always tell people that I don't expect for them to do something that I wouldn't do. And my glowers and our lighters, we're all very supportive here. But I do want to date again. I do want to, not to compare, because we know that also can lead to certain things when it comes to expectations. But I had a pretty good life when I was married. I don't want to in these later years, my children, of course, are, they're, I have a teen. I cannot believe she gets mad when I say I'm a teen mom. She says, "No, mom, you're not a teen." I say, "But I'm a teen mom. I'm a teen mom. I am." But she's she's 13, and my youngest is 11. And I do want to get out there and date again, but I tell you, it is hard to not compare because I mean, you know how it was before. It was a pretty good life. I didn't realize how good it was, but it was a pretty good life. I had a pretty good setup, and I've been called all types of things for wanting this type of life now. I get called
Mhm.
unrealistic. I get called, the men say that, I'm not as marriageable because I've already married and I already have children. So, they've come up with a term, as the manosphere puts it, as hitting the wall.
Mm.
Because I am, I'm not in my 20s. So, heaven forbid I want to get married, as though only 20-year-olds should be allowed the opportunity. Um, so, I'm working against a
I
couple of
met my
things.
second husband at 45, so keep the faith.
Exactly. I'm very optimistic because I even, I have some eggs.
Yeah. Well, I'm also at this point, I am old enough that I have watched so many of my friends become widows or become caretakers to their husbands. It's like pick a guy you'd be willing to stay with, as they say in the promises they make us make, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, through sickness and in health. You can refuse the guys who don't make enough money with your money to live the life you want, and
So
that's fine.
that becomes my question. How does one continue to meet, continue to engage, continue to uh because I don't do dating sites. You know me, I'm very conservative when it comes to things like that. And I have children, so I don't. I'm not going to be going on the carousel of the dating every night to find one. But I tell you, it seems like because of some.
Okay, you just gone mute again, so I'm going to answer what I heard of your question and say, get out and do the things you like to do. And you will probably have to get a babysitter to go out and do it. But go out and do the things you like to do, and do things where you interact with other people rather than the bar scene where you're just out looking for that person to hook up with. Do things that you like to do. I know that you're a writer and you really ought to be at any, gatherings of writers and even start your own. If you are into nutrition, you can probably find a meetup group that's into that. If you are into skiing, you can, hang out with people who ski, etc. Do the things you like to do and find someone there. And focus on the things you like to do that attract the sort of person you want to marry. If you're looking for a guy who's higher IQ, do things at museums rather than at, NASCAR races. Not that there aren't very
Wait a
intelligent men
minute.
at NASCAR races.
Wait a minute. You're
Okay.
trying to get us in trouble. That's great that you would say that, and because I think that a lot of people, they really have I really enjoy my children. I really do. Like, I'm not just, I say these are great kids, and I'm just saying it because, like, I really, when I say things like I go on date nights with my kids, people think like, what are you talking about? But um, don't know if you know it or not, but now that my ex-husband he's back to full-time law. He doesn't do professor anymore.
Okay.
And so since he's become back into full-time law, I have the kids most of the time. And now that I've moved out of state, I moved, away from where we were both living in South Florida.
Right.
I'm back in Atlanta, Georgia. We've worked on a schedule, like he'll get them for the holidays and that sort of thing, but they literally are. They're with me all the time. So of course and the COVID definitely helped everything with that as
Mm.
well. But my children, I really do things that we can all enjoy. We swim, we do, we the movies, things like that. Sometimes, they get to choose. Sometimes I get to choose, what have you. But so do you think, because it's very interesting that I mostly meet men that don't have children. And I always find that very odd because I'm literally always with my children, but I'm always meeting men that don't have children. And I don't really, I don't, I don't like to engage in conversation past like the initial, because I feel like ultimately that's not something I'm interested in doing, because of the fact that they can't really relate to that. And the couple of times that I have going back on that, it's never worked out. But that's mostly the type of men that approach me, or men that don't have children. So, um, yeah, I want to figure out ways that I can more so, meet people that I shared that like-minded interests with. And I know that a lot of our glowers, our single glowers in the room, they
Yeah.
also they also have that same issue. And a couple of my, friends, they have suggested the online dating, but I'm just super, super not even interested in it.
Hmm.
But then I get the whole standards thing, and I just feel like there's a lot of apologizing that I don't want to have to do for saying that, hey, this is what I want. So
Back in the
how do
days
you?
when people used city magazines to advertise instead of before there were dating apps, and there'd be this
I
whole
remember that
section of
in Philadelphia,
personals.
they used to in the
Philly,
yeah they
Philly
used
had it.
to in
Yeah,
the Philadelphia, yeah, Philly
I
had that as
I
well.
put in an ad in New York Magazine, and that got me into one of the early online groups for people who advertise in online in New York Magazine could meet online. And we met, and I just said I would never consider dating anyone who has large dogs. And the whole place went berserk. It's like, how could you rule someone out for that? I said, I don't want to fall in love with someone who has one because I don't want to live with one. And that's the last thing I'd want to tell anybody.
Wow. but listen,
It's like, I
but
love you,
it's
but I can't
true.
stand your dog. It would just be cruel.
And I'm a cat mom. I'm a cat mom. My cats have always been a thing. They've always been a thing. So, I said I'm gonna be a cat woman whether I'm married or not. That's just the way it is. We do have a
Yes.
question here.
And let
Jose
people know.
Garcia says,
Yeah.
"What are your thoughts on dating apps and women's growing numbers of choices for promiscuous behavior?" And I'm gonna put myself on mute so you can answer that.
Okay. Well, first of all, is Patty Newbold with a B, like new and bold. Um, and I have not been able to use any dating apps because I went ahead and got married. So I'm really not very familiar with them. But I do have an opinion about women's growing number of choices for promiscuous behavior. And I would say that is a really, really foolish move. And I know a lot of people are trying it because they don't find someone. But there was a program my husband was in before we met where they called that snaking around. It doesn't make you feel good about yourself. It doesn't make you feel good about men. It doesn't make you feel, if you're in a relationship and you're snaking around, it doesn't help the marriage. A lot of people think, if I just got my needs met somewhere else, then I'd be fine with everything else about our marriage. And you won't be fine, because if you have to keep secrets from your spouse, the intimacy is gone from your marriage. It's just shot. So I don't recommend it at all. And maybe that just makes me sound old, but I hope not. I also noticed somebody was worried that her daughter doesn't like to cook or clean, and neither do I. And I've never found that to be a problem. Both of my husbands have done the cooking because, like I said, I am a terrible, terrible cook, and um, cleaning can be paid for.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I don't drive. I still don't drive.
Mhm.
And I would always find it very odd when some men would be like, I can't believe you don't drive. You never drove. And I'm like, no man that I've ever had a long term relationship. Well, my ex husband had no problem with it. He preferred I didn't. He said it was one less car to have insurance on or maintenance
Yeah.
on. And we were together for 15 years. So my head is not on, well, let me hurry up and get a car. Now that I don't have a husband, it's just, okay. Now there's Uber, even better. I
Yeah.
figured out, and I do a lot of what I do as far as work. I do it either from home, internet, or I do it in the community that I live in serve.
Yeah.
Um, Swarty Daisy wants to hear more about dating after divorce. This is a really strong topic with a lot of my glowers, Patty.
Okay, well,
So
I'm
some
pretty
tips,
sure it's about the same as dating after, um, being widowed,
right?
and so I had a
So
10-year
any
period of
tips,
that.
any advice?
So my experience was that I had come from, other than those last 2 years, I had come from a good marriage. I'd been with somebody I respected, I loved, I'd been treated very well. We had a son we both loved. We were still good friends, et cetera, et cetera. And so I set myself immediately that I would never accept anything less than that. And I would kind of shock a lot of men because we'd sit and talk like I'd go on a blind date with someone or a date out of one of the magazine dating sites. And we'd sit down and they'd say, I'm really hoping to have more kids. And I said, well, then let me pay for my drink and go because that's not me. And that would just shake them up. But I go, there is no point in you getting to know me. That's not on my list. And so I say, have your list, know what you're looking for. And like I said, I would not allow myself to fall in love with a man who needed large dogs to live because they don't fit with my lifestyle. I would probably have a lot of trouble with somebody who doesn't like travel. I know my son, before he got married, he dated someone who hated travel, and he is just a traveler. So he ended up traveling. He took a job teaching in India, and he met his wife while he was there, and she was fine with travel, so that was good. But dating after divorce, one of the problems is that, you've already had plenty of sex as a married person, and the other married people are into, they've also had plenty of sex. And so it is hard to slow down the relationship, the sexual side of the relationship. And I'm going to suggest you do it because there's this chemical in our body called oxytocin. And orgasms produce more of it. For men, just stroking their arm produces more of it. And it causes us to let down our guard. And an awful lot of people let down their guard too early, marry someone, and then put their guard up and go, who are you? So I would say, as much as possible, hold off. And I'm certainly not going to tell you it's totally possible, although some religious people pull it off. But as much as possible, slow down the sexual side of any relationship so that you can get to know them without a bunch of oxytocin clouding your mind. It will make you, they have done things like spray it up people's noses and then subject them to con men, and they'll fall for con men more easily, So be cautious with it and be picky about who you date and be obvious about it. Ask everyone you know for the person you're looking for. I still find it hilarious. When I married my second husband, I insisted that the guy who conducted the ceremony ask our friends and particularly our friends, but also our relatives, if they knew of any reason why we should not be married, they should speak now or forever hold their peace. And my husband thought that was pretty quaint. And I said, no, 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 no. When we met in Birmingham, Alabama. And it turned out that we lived 90 minutes apart up in the Philadelphia area. And we had 24 friends in common, and none of them had ever introduced us. So I just wanted to be sure they didn't have some reason they were going to tell me after we were married. But ask your friends to help you find people, and don't ever give up. Be you, be self-confident. I mean, that's the whole, the young gals who are just looking to, I'm going to marry for money. What they're saying is, I'm not good enough. I don't like myself enough. I'm not seeing my own good qualities. And so I'm going to look for someone to make me better. And that's a bad marriage. You need a marriage of someone who is your equal, and you need to know who you are to find your equal. And yes, wow, stroking the arm. Yes, indeedy. If you ever you see a woman who's stroking your arm, she may know the secret, but it actually counteracts the testosterone in a male body. And I thought maybe this is just really crazy, because one of the things that the testosterone in the male body does is that most men insist that respect is the foundation of any relationship, whether it's, with a member of the opposite sex or a friend or a co-worker or whatever, that respect comes first. Most women think respect is something you earn after everything else is taken care of. And a lot of divorces happen over that. And someone did research, and they found that this insistence that respect is the foundation of relationships fades away as soon as they give a guy estrogen for prostate cancer. That it literally is male hormones that cause that belief, not male culture, not male upbringing. It is male hormones that cause men to believe respect comes first, and you're going to want to respect first. So I want to tell everyone that I have published a book recently, and I have a second one coming out behind it. Is that okay, Courtney?
It would be the 6th one.
Yes, please do. And if you want to give me the link, if you want to share the link, I can post it in the room.
Well, I'll tell you,
So
if you go to Amazon and put in Enjoy Being Married, you'll find it.
Oh,
because
perfect. I'll write it in as
it's published by Enjoy Being Married. And it is just a little journal that I created for people who are having trouble with disagreements with their spouse on anything. And the book is called Agreed. The subtitle is A Journal to Bring Joy to Any Marriage with Too Many Disagreements. And I'm in the process now of finishing up and editing a second journal, which will be called Loved. And it is on how to get your needs met and let go of your expectations that are causing your resentment in your marriage.
And that's one of the things that I think is so difficult for a lot of marriages, especially ones that are mature, more than 10 years, to take that resentment out. I know I struggled with that.
Yes.
And I just really thought that, hey, we've been together for 15 years. Well, at the time we divorced, we had been married for 13 years. But I remember thinking after the 10-year mark, I'm like, I know that he knows this. And it was tough for me to appreciate that, even though he may know that, that wasn't like an ultimate deal breaker to him that he didn't. But I tell you, just as like you said, with your husband, with coming home, there was, oddly and interestingly enough, when I finally got the divorce papers from my ex-husband, it was in the bathroom, and I remember just the sound that escaped from my body was, I remember thinking I didn't know I could make such a sound. It was from such a deep, I was in the shower and I went to, take a shower. I didn't want the kids to see me crying. And I just released, and I just remember just, you know, I just couldn't believe that this was actually happening. And I've often reflected back on that day since, and it's been almost 9 years now, and I just think of how incredibly, why is it so hard for, I will just say, for me, I won't say us because I don't know if any other women, even though I imagine that there are, but I don't want to, offend anyone. But Patty, why is it so hard for us to realize that before it happens? When it's happening, why is it so much easier to be accountable after that shoe is dropped? After that, you know, why? What is this accountability thing that's so hard for us?
Because nobody teaches marriage skills. If you didn't grow up with parents who were happily married and using those skills so you could see them, which often you don't see because your parents were happily married because of their similarities. And you don't understand that what worked for them isn't going to work when you marry somebody who's totally different. Or just living in a different generation. That's, we need skills, and that's why I keep trying. I wrote assumelove.com as often as I possibly can. I've been writing for 14 years, so I'm slowing down a bit, but still writing it, and I'm starting to get out some journals now to help people through this, because we need to learn how to do it. And for whoever it was who said she doesn't think people are physically attracted to you, oh, let that go, please. When I was between husbands, I am 5'10". So first of all, I'm not on a lot of people's attractive list for that reason. And I weighed, I think, 245 pounds. And everybody who told me, I think men aren't physically attracted to me, I'd go, look, they're dating me. That's not the problem. You're just not meeting the right men. Keep looking. So be who you are, and someone will be attracted to you. Trying to make yourself attractive to more than one person is madness. You just need to be attractive to that one.
You know what? Oh my gosh, Patty, if somebody put up some glowers, I'm going to put up some. Patty, that is it right there, because many years, I thought that the more attractive I was to other men, the more my husband appreciated me. For many years, this is what I thought. I was like, because of course all men want the prettiest girl, they want the hottest girl. And then it doesn't, it doesn't help now that a lot of men are like, well, no, not a lot of men want you. So that's why you're so, whatever. But I said, had I not gone through a marriage and thinking that way wrongly, I would believe the crap that the manosphere is spitting out now. And that's why I say it's so unfortunate that a lot of young girls that are listening to this, or young women rather, this is what's so concerning to me, is because they're being led astray, because that type of thinking will lead you ultimately by yourself, because the men who say that did not, they have some other issues of why they think that, but it does not go hand in hand with keeping a relationship together. Because I was a woman that thought that, and so I was always getting the nails done, the hair done, the eyebrows arched, professionally. I didn't want to do any of that myself. Working out all the time, getting this, putting this body together to be attractive to other men. But at the same time, here I was starving out my own husband and not giving him that same attention.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, it's so sad. Everything is such a in hindsight, everything is so 2020 and crystal clear. And you're absolutely right. A lot aren't taught it, even though I came from a two-parent home as well as he did. What I learned from a two-parent home was that my dad put the check on the table and my mom ran the house. That wasn't the way his household operated. And so, you know, there was some inconsistencies there. But I just gotta say that wow, divorce taught me much more than marriage ever did. And I don't want that to be the same for other people because I know that with the type of tools, especially the ones that you give, you can get it. You can get it. Like if I would have gotten, I always have told you this, and if we would have gotten if we would have started workshopping before we ever had kids, no doubt in my mind, my husband and I would still be married. I mean, you saw how we were. We didn't hate each other. We weren't.
No, you loved each other. You just couldn't stand your life together. That's exactly like me. And I like what God's plan for salvation is saying there on that quote, because I work with a lot of folks in arranged marriages because my daughter-in-law is from India and refers me people. And so most of them didn't know their husband when they married. And they are taught that it's their job to learn to fall in love once you marry.
Yes.
And I'm impressed that because of that, they actually get more marriage education than we do. We're just sent out there to date, It's like the parents are going to pick someone who's properly matched to them and has the right future prospects and, has, that the two will be equals and all of that. And then they say, well, here you are, here's your spouse, get married. And they fall in love and many of them stay in love even longer than we do. Some, of course, have real problems too, but they get a lot more preparation for it.
I absolutely appreciate just having this honest exchange because I tell you it's been a very I think that this year particularly, especially with COVID, has been really difficult for a lot of people that kind of you couldn't hold up with anyone. I said when people were saying, "Oh, you got to stay inside and not go anywhere," I was like, "Hello, welcome to Courtney's life. What are you talking about? I enjoy it over here. It's just fine. I guess I've had COVID for a number of years now, but I think that it made people a whole lot more aware of other people that were kind of in the same predicament, so to speak, where we weren't dating, we're not out and involved in. And it's very odd because, like I said, I do consider myself to be social. I consider myself to be appealing. I consider all of these things, but it's just like I'm really not, coupling with anyone. And when people say, "Oh, how do you remain celibate?" I'm like, it's really easy. My eyes are open. I'm not blind, and I'm not. I'm just not. I'm not interested in the games and the whole nine. Like I want to marry it, and so this has just been an incredible year of, I think, awareness. Well, it is 2020, so
yeah, it is hard to meet
it's been an
someone
incredible
this
year
year.
of awareness and exposure and just realization. Yeah, it has been. So we have so we're gonna be closing out because I don't want to hold everyone here too long. And Patty, you've been so generous with your time. Let's do this. Let me go and scroll back up. I know Swarty Daisy, you're saying some great comments here because you're talking about dating after divorce as well as dating in your 40s. I know hypergamy, we could go on that for forever and a day. We did touch on the swirling a bit. I think this is a good topic we didn't hit on just so yet. Patty, what are some ways you think that we
Oh, you just cut out again. Maybe you can type the question because I cannot hear you at this time. Wow, 21 years, God's plan. I'm not hearing Courtney at all anymore. Okay, at least I know you're still there, but I cannot hear you. Oh, Courtney and Fios. Courtney is trying to do this from a Staples, so I feel for her. Thank you, Swarthy Daisy. Okay, I think Courtney's connection has a problem. Okay, now I see myself. Can anybody hear me? Welcome to Anthony Taylor. I'm still trying to figure out what's going on. I don't know if anyone can hear me. I can't hear Courtney anymore. She's almost back in. Okay. Oh, you can hear me? That's good. Okay. So Anthony Taylor's looking for a quick recap. So we've been talking about marriage, and I've talked a lot about my own 2 marriages because I screwed up the first one and I did better on the second one. Here comes Courtney. Hi.
Yes, we can hear you. Can
Yay.
you hear me okay?
Yes. Yes. Now I can. And whose
Welcome
birthday
to
is it?
Anthony Taylor. I'm still trying to figure out. Hello.
Hello. All right. I'm not hearing you again. This is my first time on this platform, so I'm fascinated to see what's happening.
Just come on, unmute me.
Yeah, he just,
Hello.
Yes. Hello.
Okay, finally. You know what's funny? Okay, so usually when I'm talking, it shows like speakers going, but it's not showing anything. So this is fun.
Oh,
But we have a lot of people that just all of a sudden have come in. So that's fun. So Anthony Taylor, you were exchanging with him, one of our lighters. It's mom and daughter's birthday, so happy birthday to you, mom and daughter. Swarty Daisy, definitely. Yeah, Patty has been great. She has always been great. God's plan for salvation. You would like Patty, if you have a moment, I can drop the link. God's plan for salvation would like to call in. She would like to join us on the panel. And I don't have a problem with that, but I didn't want to hold you past if you didn't have
no,
the
that's
time
okay.
to
I will
engage.
stay.
But I can drop the link and oh, perfect. Okay, so I'm dropping it right now. Thank you. Woo, this is so fun. And welcome, KK. I see you were in the building also. Welcome. No, I really enjoyed it. My question was, how does one kind of whew, how does one avoid being depressed during this very depressing time with being alone but not lonely? What are some tips? Because like I said, I would like to consider myself, I'm fun, I'm lively. It's not in this I don't want to say in this particular time, not just this year, but um, you know, my children, like I said, they're not at the age where they've never been stuck just with a sitter, so that does also put a little bit of a obstacle to some things, but I feel like a lot of time I come off as someone who wants to be by myself when that's not the case. I would love some other company. It's just in the regards to the ways that I want it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So just would love some tips on how to not come off as looking like I'm just kind of a
I think what you want to do is learn what the values are of the person you're meeting and what their strengths are. So you could use one of the strengths exercises that Marty Seligman put in his book, Authentic Happiness, which is just ask somebody you've met, tell me about you at your best. Tell me one day in your life when you were at your best. You'll learn a lot about a person that way. Okay, I think we lost our connection again. Okay, if anybody can hear me, I was suggesting that one way to get to know someone new when you meet someone is to ask them to tell you about a day in their life when they were at their best, when they were their best self, and listen closely to what they tell you about themselves. So Anthony's asking, a lot of women talk as if they want to be by themselves. Why is that? Probably because you haven't impressed them yet. But a lot of people appear to want to be by themselves because they're introverts and they need someone else to start the conversation. Just looking at your picture, I presume you're pretty confident starting conversations. But then there are also times when, particularly if you're out somewhere and you meet someone, they really do want to be by themselves because, they're out to escape some problem at home, or they're waiting for someone else to show up, or they're just, not feeling at their best. And it's okay. Okay, well, we have an interesting new visual, and it went away. All right. I'm really not much of an expert at dating, but I figure what you want when you're dating is to find the person who'll be easiest to be married to. Because I do know that the longer the marriage goes on and the deeper it gets, the richer it gets, the more you grow because your spouse presents you with new opportunities and challenges, and the more you take risks because your spouse has strengths that you can draw upon to take them and to live a better life, the better the marriage gets, and they're well worth having for a long time. And then when you get to be my age, dating really sounds like a horrible prospect at this age. um, and it's really nice to be in a nice long-term relationship as you grow older. All right. Courtney, are you able to speak yet? Anthony's married. Okay, Anthony, don't go introducing yourself to strange women. Hello? All right, Courtney, are you still around? I do see the 5 light bulbs, but I truthfully don't know what 5 light bulbs means. Well, I'll just go plug my book again and tell you, if you go to Amazon.com and just search on Enjoy Being Married, you will come to my first book, which is Agreed, A Journal to Bring Joy to Any Marriage with Too Many Disagreements. And then in a few more weeks, there should be a second one there called Loved, which is a journal about dealing with your needs and expectations. Thank you, Koja Malik. Yeah, I think she's having problems because she's on a borrowed computer today. Hey, I got your name right. Yay. I hear Courtney.
I am here.
Yay.
Yay. I dropped the link again for God's plan for salvation. I don't know if I lost her or she lost us, but I kept adding her to the stream, but she kept coming out. So I was trying to give her another opportunity to get back in, but she kept coming out. So I don't know if she's having technical
All right, and you've cut out again, but Cameron Bro has asked, I don't plan to marry anytime soon. With that said, should I try dating despite that? Yes, of course. Have fun. Get to know people. Have sex with them if you want. Um, but be honest with people. You know, if you're looking for short-term relationships or you're looking for a long-term relationship but never living with someone else or whatever it is you're looking for, just be honest with people. You're not marketing yourself like some product. You are seeking the right person. And you just have to be honest to find that person, and you have to invite them to be honest with you. And if you want to move on, let them know that that's your plan. And how's your mic doing now, Courtney? Your laptop is broken. Okay, now we're getting COVID dating advice, which just, scares me half to death, but wear a mask and condoms. I like it. Yeah, I don't think any of us have had to deal with a pandemic before. This is a new one on me. And again, a time when I'm really thankful to be married because I have someone right here at home with me. I have a young friend in South Africa who has been looking for a partner, and she's just been holed up and waiting for her chance to get out and meet new people. KK, I would wait too. COVID is pretty scary. I don't think any of us really wants to get sick. All right. Well, Courtney, should we wrap it up since we've lost you? And let me say thank you to everyone who showed up. It's wonderful. I absolutely love talking about marriage with anybody. Obviously, as those who arrived late can see, and Courtney pointed out earlier, I'm not really part of the African American community and can't speak as well to it as many of her guests can. But I think a lot of what I know about marriage applies regardless of race or sex or sexual preference or any of that. They're just skills that aren't taught. So Cameron Bro says pandemics like these happen at least once a century when the civilization is bound to change one way or another. Yes, it will. I predict that once the pandemic is over, there will be a lot more dating and a lot more marriages. I think a lot of people.
What they should have done is, who could have been set up with this? Oh, that, yeah, they would have done it, they should have done it. With the previous setup. So when you log in, they had to have done a previous setup. So why they didn't, they must not put it in when they set you up. Oh, okay. They couldn't have put in an email for you.
All right. I wasn't able to make out that last speaker. But hi. Oh, this looks hopeful.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, I just have a question. I wanted to know, what do you think the key is to a long-lasting marriage?
I think the key to a long-lasting marriage is to always assume before you make any other jump to any other conclusions that you first try assuming that you are still loved and respected by a person of good character.
Okay, sounds good.
I don't think the secret to a long marriage has anything at all to do with cooking or cleaning or painting your nails or staying thin or staying fat or, any of the other things that get in the way. It is about two people building a life together. And to build a life together, you have to come to agreements. And that's, like in my book, what I'm trying to help people do is find third alternatives instead of compromises. A lot of people say if you can't find a compromise between your two positions on something, you may just have to live with the disagreement. And I'm not sure you do have to live with any disagreement. I really think there's usually a third alternative that both of you can buy into. And that a compromise is just saying, I'm willing to take less than I wanted, as long as you guarantee me that the most important person in my life will also get less. And that's a negotiation for nations or bankers or other folks. It's not a good negotiation for those of us who love.
So how do you negotiate when one gives more than the other?
Well, first off, I would say if you believe you're the one giving more than the other, give less.
Okay.
Because you're probably wrong. And the fact that you're thinking you're right is introducing a whole lot of resentment into the marriage that you can just eliminate by reducing what you did. And I'm not talking about reducing it in anger or punishment. I'm talking about reducing it to bring yourself back to the point where you feel like an equal partner in the marriage.
Yeah, because my husband feels he gives more.
Okay. Well, it's hard to tell someone else to give less, but if your husband feels he gives more, I think you want to ask him what it is that he'd like you to give.
Okay.
And you may have to explain to him, I can't give that to you, or when I give that to you, I don't feel like I'm being a good person to you. I don't feel like I'm showing you love because that's just not in the nature of who I am. So let me tell you about some of the things I'm really good at that I'd love to do for you.
Okay. I feel like I'm being more of a mother than I am a wife.
Do not ever be a mother to your husband, because the moment you put yourself in the position of mother, you have an unequal relationship that can't survive.
Okay.
Okay? You cannot be your spouse's mother. You cannot be your spouse's therapist. You cannot be their drug rehab counselor. You cannot be their preacher. You have to be their equal. If you want to have a good marriage, you have to find that place where you are both equals. You can ask for what you want. You can insist that you won't live with an addict while they're not getting treatment. You can, if your spouse develops Alzheimer's and becomes violent, you can insist on assisted living or someone in the home that's going to protect you. You should never put yourself in a position to be harmed by someone who's unable to control their behavior. But other than that, you should be able to find that sweet spot where the two of you are contributing. And I think you can tell your husband, it's okay to give less. I know you've been giving a lot, and I really appreciate it. But it's okay to give a little less and let's see if we can find our sweet spot and then build from there.
Okay. All right,
I
thank
hope
you.
that helps. Sure.
Thank you. You guys have a good night.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm joining the chat again.
Okay, Courtney, let's wrap it up if we can.
Yes, I am ready to do just that. We want to thank God's plan for salvation for coming on.
Yes.
Thank you again, Patty. We want to thank everyone in the room tonight that made an appearance. Again, happy birthday, mom and daughter. KK, is always great seeing you. No, KK, my stuff is not backed up. It's all on the computer. My computer is my office. So that's why I've been at Staples the last 3 days. Okay. But thank you for your concern and any other advice. Man, you have my number as well as you have my email. Send it there. We definitely wanted to make sure that the chat tonight stayed in relation to Miss Patty and not on Courtney's laptop issues because we would be here talking all night about several things. Thank you so much, Anthony Taylor, for coming in. Always a light, brother. Thank you. And thank you for contributing as you did to the project that I'm working on, which is a part of all that I'm doing to glow up this career as well as my writing. Thank you again, as well as the show. Who was first in the room today? Oh, brother, sir, thank you so much. I don't know if you're still in the room, but mom and daughter, actually, birthday girl was in the room today first. So thank you again. You all just tonight, Swarty Daisy, you were great with your contributions. Cameron, always a pleasure. I can't say this enough that you all inspire me so much. Hey, Borge, I see you down there, bestie. How are you, my duet partner? I can't say this enough how much the people in my life, of which Patty is, of which Cameron, you and I know each other personally. I can't say that enough. Go Black Ink, absolutely. Hello, Sis Toya. That your network inspires. It should inspire, it should empower, and it should encourage you. And if you don't have that type of network, then what type of network do you have? Absolutely. And I want to say that you all do that for me every day in every way. I really appreciate you all for rocking with me, even with all of these technical difficulties. Um, you've been absolutely great. And without any further ado, just a big shout out to Patty for bringing your wit, bringing your intellect, bringing your insight to this conversation. Jose Garcia, don't know if you're still with us, but thank you so much. I know you were here earlier. But Patty, you definitely provided much light to the conversations that we do have in this particular chat very, very consistently, but also just seeing it from a different perspective. Because, like I said, I think that what unfortunately happens, especially when we're going through relationships, we tend to think that only we are facing them. But you definitely gave insight to just let us know that no particular group has a monopoly on relationship struggles. It
True.
definitely persists in all age groups. It could persist in all races, in all cultures. And I really appreciate that. And thank you for giving me a little bit of insight before, we even went live with the with the other content creator because he couldn't come on today. So because he had his own show. So that was even helpful. So without any further ado, like I said, I want you to go ahead and plug your your book and your ways that people can continue to get in contact with you. And again, I'm always going to be in touch. You know me. I'm always going to be just an absolute believer in um, making marriages great again. And you have absolutely instilled that in me, regardless of relationship background. um, just always have been very encouraging with just letting us know that if the will was there, if the love is there, then it's absolutely worth fighting for. And I really appreciate you for that. And of course, my babies do too. Absolutely.
Yes, indeed. Let's get them grown up and
Go ahead and have the final word,
Don't know
and
how to do
I'm
it.
going to go on mute for the final time tonight. Thank you.
Okay. My blog is assumelove.com. That's assumelove.com, ASSUMELOVE.com. And if you go to Amazon and just search for my company name, Enjoy Being Married, you will find my books. Thank you all. You've been a wonderful audience, and I absolutely so thrilled that Courtney's given me this chance to speak to you about marriage. Thank you.